Hey guys, so the problem that we are here to solve today is the one that arises when you are using multiple data sources and there are name mismatches that occur. You might be using like the FC player list in the boom bust tool, or the DK salary file in the FC player list, or you might be pulling information from outside sources, whatever it may be. Unfortunately, there are no naming conventions, um, that are followed. So you might find guys like Bruce Brown Jr. being Bruce Brown Jr. in one place and just Bruce Brown in another. PJ Tucker, PJ Washington might not have the periods between the P and the J. Ishmael Smith might be Ish Smith. So there's all different ways that names can be different. Unfortunately, one really major limitation of Excel, in most versions anyway, is that there's no good fuzzy lookup feature. A fuzzy lookup would be like when you're trying to match two things and they're not identical, but they're close, really close. And realistically, I think all versions of Excel should have a function that you can match at least like 85% of what you're trying to match and have that be accepted. But unfortunately, that's not the way. We have to have everything exact. So one of the ways that I think is the best to handle this is to make a name table, and that's what we're going to do here today. So I'm going to start here by making some tabs. I'll make 4 total tabs. We'll call this main. We'll call this copy player list. If you've watched any of my other videos, you'll recognize that I tend to use these kind of conventions. Copy, boom, bust. And then the star of the show, name table. Once you, well, I shouldn't say once you do it, but when you build this name table, you can build it anywhere you want. So if you have an existing model, you can build it right within your existing model. These 3 tabs here are likely going to be tabs that you probably already have in your model. I'm just kind of putting them here so that we can demonstrate. This would be the only addition you might need if you have, already a pretty decent working model. That might be the only one you need to actually create. I'll just give you some color so I can quickly tell them apart. And we're ready to get started. So in my main tab here, I'm just going to have player, boom percentage, and boom percentage. And these are just going to be for demonstration purposes to show you how this thing works. Here, we're going to bring in the player list that we bring in here. And we'll bring it down to like 200 spots because, again, we're just demonstrating, okay? So here and here, we're going to copy in the boom bust and the FC player list. I'm going to grab that stuff right now for today. I'm just going to grab it from DK here. So bring in the player list. Oh, and you know what I just remembered? I forgot the new style here of their player list starts at A3. So we're going to have to go in here and fix this to be A3. All right. So we got the player list populated. I'll grab the boom bust tool. And I'll put it in here. So now what this is going to do is we are just going to do a quick index match. If you don't know index match, learn it. It's the most useful Excel function for DSS purposes. So we're going to say equals the index of, we want boom percentage here. So we're going to go to our boom bust sheet, find our boom column. It's J, comma, match. What are we going to match? Back on the page where we're, on the tab where we're putting this formula, it's just going to be A2. We're going to match A2. Where do we want to match it to? We want to match it in here because we're trying to pull boom percentage and we want to match. So in other words, like, if Otto Porter was in A2 back at this main, it's going to come down here, find Otto Porter Jr., come over here, find the boom percentage, and bring that value in. So where do we want to match A to, the name to? We want to match it to this column, copy boom bust A to A. Always match it exactly. Close off our brackets until they turn black, and we are good to go. So now we have 19.58 is Jokic's boom percentage. Now I'm gonna temporarily copy this over to here. Okay, these are going to be identical for now, and I'm going to send these down, and you're going to immediately start to see that there are some issues. Okay, so those errors that are there, they mean one of two things. They mean either Steph Curry is not there at all, or the name doesn't match. Okay, Anthony Davis' name doesn't match, right? So it's just saying that there's no record found. Why that is could just be, as simple as, the boom bust doesn't have that player because it's a zero projection or something like that. But it also could be in the case of, somebody like Kevin Porter Jr. It's not the case here, but it could be that the junior was left off. Okay. So we're trying to remedy as many of these as we can. So I am going to change this formula here a little bit. Okay. So instead of, now there's going to be two different ways you can do this in your model. And I'm going to, actually, let's come back to this. I don't want to mess you up so early. Let's come back to this, and I'll show you how we're going to formulate this after we've got the rest of this stuff going. I think it'll make more sense to you if you see it that way. That's what I think. So let's come in here and we'll start building our name table. So a name table is basically just going to be a table where we can reference names that we're trying to look up. Like if we're trying to look up, DeJounte Murray in the boom bust tool. And if we think his name is not going to match boom bust tool, we can find it from an alternate source. So let's go in here and start building this out. Okay. I'm going to merge this top. I'm going to call this the master table. Okay. Call this the master table. I don't know. Give it some color. Why not? I always like to do stuff like this because I really like to encourage people to use formatting to help keep everything clean. And, you can tell the things that you're trying to, find out really quickly if things are neat, orderly, labeled well, stuff like that. So especially in the NBA where time matters so much. So we're going to say FC name. This is going to be DK name. This is going to be the boom bust name. FC name, boom bust name. You're going to need a different table, by the way, for everything you're trying to match. So like if you're using the boom bust and that doesn't match FC, you're going to need a table. If you're using the DK salary file and that doesn't match, you're going to need a table. If you're using something like, data from Add More Funds or something like that, and that doesn't match, you're going to need a different table. Or maybe not a different table so much, or just other columns here. So like maybe you're always using the FC player list in your model and you want it to match the boom bust tool and you want it to match Add More Funds and you want it to match a DK salary file. You'll just need additional columns for that. Okay. But for now, this is all we're doing. So I'm going to send this down to about 25 because we'll just do out 25 of them for now. Give this some formatting so that it looks pretty decent. And there it is. So I think one of the things that I like to do a lot is wherever there's something in my model that I can erase or type into, I like to use like a pretty light shade of yellow just as an indicator for me. And in this case, I might even use a lot lighter than that, just because, again, none of this is super important. I'm just kind of a stickler for visuals and aesthetics and stuff like that. So I just like my stuff to look a certain way because it really helps me to identify it and to, I think use it better. So, all right, get a nice subtle color yellow. Maybe I'll juice it a bit. And give it just a little more color. All right, that's perfect to me. So here's your master table. and it's all ready to roll basically. Okay, we might give this bold. And now the next thing you're going to need, leave a little space here, and we're going to go D, E, F, and G. We're going to use all of these. So I'm going to merge them all, and I'm going to call this my searching table. Okay. We're going to be using names in the first three, so I'm going to make these guys a little wider. And then in G, we're going to have a code, so we don't need that to be as wide. I'll give this some color too. I'll make it bold. I actually just make these first two rows bold all the time. And now what we need here is the FC name, the boom bust name. Is it missing? And is it found? So one thing I should mention is the table that we're making here is pretty complicated. It's a much more complicated version than what you would need to do, but it's also pretty awesome in that it's going to automate so much of the process. And I think you'll be really surprised how like easy it is to use if you just spend some time setting it up in the first place. We're going to come down here. I mean, we'll bring this down. I don't even know what the most records you can have in a player list is, but we'll just bring it down to like 600. What? All right. I'm distracting myself by talking. So I forgot. I'm not actually caught. Jesus, what did I do? What did I do? I think I might have accidentally brought that down to like 1,000,000 rows, which I don't think we need. So let's just bring it down to 600 again. And make a grid and make a frame and make it look kind of nice. All right. So like I was saying, I mean, realistically, all you would have to do is, you know, if you really wanted to, you could just write like Kevin Porter Jr. here and then Kevin Porter Jr. without the junior. However it is in each tool, you could just type it in. But like I said, I'm going to automate this a lot for you so that you'll really come to appreciate once you spend just a little bit of time setting this up, how useful it is moving forward. Where was the yellow I liked? I think it was that one. Yeah. All right. Now these columns here, I do not want to type into later on. I don't want to delete. These are going to be formula columns. So I like to give myself, something like this, just to remind myself to not go in here and do anything, because I'm going to be adding formulas. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do here is we're going to skip another space. We're going to use column I as the FC name values table. All right. So, and then we'll just give this, we're just going to say FC names. Okay. Now, this guy we're going to bring down to with all the rest. And here we go. Give this one some color too. Nice. And then I am also going to give this my light color to remind me that I don't want to be typing anything in there. So the first thing that we're going to be doing here is we're just going to be bringing in the player list over to here. Okay. So equals, come down to the player list. We're just going to grab the player list in the order it is coming in here at. All right. And boom, there it is. I like to, whenever I put names in, I always like to justify them all the way to the left, but then I like to give them this little indent. I don't know, I always think that looks nice and is easy to read and makes it aesthetically pleasing. So we're going to do it. And there it is. So now we've got our first source of data in for our table. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to bring in our boom bust names, because we're going to be matching. I'm going to show you at first the most basic way to bring this in, okay? Which is just the same exact way I brought the names in from there, but from the boom bust tool instead of the fantasy cruncher player list. But once we've got this in here, I'm going to make an edit to this, okay? I'm not just going to leave it like that. The reason being is when we start to build this thing out, right now, if there's any mismatches, it's going to populate and show us, and then we're going to add those to our tables. The problem is, let's say that today I fixed Otto Porter Jr., and it's in my table. If I do this again tomorrow, it's still going to tell me Otto Porter Jr. is a mistake, but I already have Otto Porter Jr. in my table. So I want to account for that. I want to account for every time I open this up, I want to also make sure that it's not telling me that I'm missing somebody that's already in my table. Okay, does that make sense? So the way that we're going to do that is we're going to come over here and we're going to say equals if error, and then we're going to index A to A. In other words, we're going to take a look in the table already to try and match this copy boom bust A2 name. So whatever this first name is, we're going to say, is it in this table already? Okay. What is the lookup array? Well, what we're going to try to do is we're going to look for it here because it would be here under the boom bust name. And if we find it here, the reason why we're indexing A to A is if we find this name already in this column, already in this table, I want to pull the corrected name, not the name from the boom bust tool. So this is how we do that. We look for it in B to B. We look for it exact always match exactly. Excel has absolutely no idea how to do any of the other two matches. And now we have the other part of our if error. If there's an error in matching that, in other words, if the name is not already present in this table, then we do want to pull the copy boom bust A2 as if it were never in the table in the first place. So I know that's a little complicated, but I think you'll start to see as we go that that's going to, work out. And as you can see too, it's not going to change as I copy down. It's not going to change anybody yet because no one's in that table. Okay. The difference is, right? Let's just say Jordan Poole was a junior, right? Let's just say Jordan Poole was Jordan Poole Jr. in FC. And let's say that we fixed Jordan Poole to be Jordan Poole Jr. Now, when I copy this down, instead of pulling Jordan Poole, it doesn't pull Jordan Poole Jr. Why? Oh, whoops, because it shouldn't be Jordan Poole. If it was fixed, it would be like this. So does that fix it? Let's see. Match. Oh, you know what I did wrong? I did A2. Make sure we're doing A3. Okay, because I used the first two columns. There we go. Make sure we're doing A3. Now, does that work? I hope so. So now this is looking for A4. It's looking for it in BB, and I left the E off. That's what I did wrong. There we go. So see how now it pulls Jordan Poole Jr. instead of Jordan Poole. Okay, because that would be what we already corrected. Obviously, that's fictitious, so we get rid of it, and we move on. So now I've got this fancier formula for everybody. If there's nothing on the table, it just pulls the boom bust name. If it's in the table, it pulls the corrected version that would match the FC name. Okay, so there we go. Next thing we want to do is we want to search to see if it's missing. Well, how do we know if it's missing? It's missing if it doesn't match one of these names. In other words, is a name that's on the boom bust tool different than one of the names on FC, where we would have a mismatch? To do that, we do equals if E3 equals blank, then blank. In other words, if there's no name here, then just make this blank. This will matter because down below here, there'll be no names. And also you may start, you might delete something out of here. It's just the validation part of this is that you don't want, if there's no name there, you don't want to do this validation, because if it's blank, it will always find a blank space somewhere in this column. So we do that to just validate that. And now we do another if error. This time we're nesting an if statement. We're going to match E3. We're going to match E3. Okay. First name here, match it. Notice that we're not doing index match here. We're just doing a match. Match it to I to I. Match this name anywhere in this column. Okay. Always exact. Always match exact. So now what we're going to say here is if the match of this is greater than 0, then make this blank. Otherwise, make it E3. So what we're saying is, if this name matches in here, I'm trying to see if I can visually see a name here that matches right away. But all right, if LeBron James matches LeBron James, then it's going to give you the row where it matches, right? So it's going to say, oh, LeBron James is in row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is going to return 6, this match function. If it's greater than 0, meaning if it was found anywhere in this column, then make this blank because it's not missing, it's found. If it is 0, if there's an error in matching. In other words, if it says LeBron James is not in here, it's going to throw an error. Then add this name to this side of the list, missing, E3. So if Kevon Looney was not present anywhere in here, it would add E3, Kevon Looney. If it finds it, the index is going to be something greater than 0. It's going to leave it blank. And I obviously screwed the form up. Why? What did I do? What did I do? Oh, I did not put my parenthesis in. I got sidetracked because I was talking about my formula, so I didn't close my formula. There we go. And now we're going to bring this down, the whole length of everything. Okay. And we'll put it right here. Cool. Now, already right off the bat, we realize Otto Porter Jr. is a problem. Okay. I don't know if there's anybody else. Yeah, here we go. So there's a bunch of problems. Okay. So now, also another problem is that we didn't set up our indent, and I don't like the way it looks. There we go. So now we start to see that there are problems showing up. These are automating the process of determining whether or not there's a mismatch in names between Fantasy Cruncher's playlist and the Boom Bust tool. Everybody in this column is either has a name that doesn't match. It's either not a junior, it's Troy Brown regular, it's it's not Wancho. There's a naming issue here, or that player is just straight up not on the Boom Bust tool, which is okay as well. Okay. So now we have to do one more function next door here to see if when we fix it, it's found. So the way we're going to do that equals if F3, if the missing column is blank, then blank. Okay. Because if a player is not missing, he can't be found. If D3 equals blank, then blank. Okay. Also, if I'm not yet trying to solve the problem. Like for Otto Porter, that's a problem, but I have not tried to solve it yet. This is blank. Leave this blank because I don't want to see anything there until I try to solve the problem. Okay. Now, after this, we're going to do another if error. Match D3. So we're going to match what I type in here to that list. Always match exact. And then if there's an error, just make it blank. Okay. So what this basically is doing is, so really quick, just a couple Excel notes. If error, this function basically just says if anything that we try to do in the next nested function screws up and gives me an error back, then do whatever the if error is here, which is make it blank. It's not the way it sounds. Like it's not like, oh, if there's a problem, then I just want to make sure there isn't a problem. It's a function that's used to like do things that you're trying to accomplish by saying, you know, I'm going to try to match this. And if it doesn't match anywhere, it's going to throw an error on purpose. And so I'll take the error and use that to make this blank, you know? And then the other thing is match. Anytime you're matching something, you're just looking for this value D3 in this list I to I. If it finds it, like I showed you before, it's going to tell you the row it's in. That's it. It's that simple. But we're not looking for actually to find the row. Sometimes, like we were before, we're just looking to see if like the match is greater than 0, meaning it's there or not there. In this case, I am going to bring in the index, the row of where it finds it. And we'll see in a minute what that does. But it is going to be blank for everybody, okay? That much we know. Because, again, I had it set so that if this is blank, it's always blank because I haven't tried to do it yet, okay? So now, before we start using our table here, there's one more thing that I want to do, okay? And this is a little bit of a trick that's going to help you to get the names exact when you're trying to, let me see, when you're trying to, guess what the proper name should be in FC. So what we're going to do is we're going to scroll to the, well, first of all, I want to point out, this is the FC names column, okay? So these are the names as they appear in Fantasy Cruncher player list, which is the main source that we're trying to match everything to. Like we want our Boom Bust and our DK Sally file to all match this. So there it is. So I3 is the first name on the Fantasy Cruncher list. So in our D column, which is where we're going to take our guesses at these, we're going to scroll to the very bottom. This is my own little flavor here. This is going to help you quite a bit. Just below here, we're going to start populating. What the hell did I do? We're going to start populating the FC player list again. And we're going to populate however many, I don't even know, whatever the hell I did, 600. We're going to populate the 600 or so names, okay? As long as it's big enough that we don't miss anybody, which is fine. Okay, we're good. So now we're just going to keep this hidden list under here, okay? That's all, just a hidden list. Probably never see it. The reason we're putting it there is, now, let's go to our first name that's mismatched, Otto Porter. So right now, I can tell you that if we tried to pull Otto Porter Jr. into, I knew where the hell he was. Where the hell are you, Otto Porter Jr.? If we try to pull Otto Porter Jr. into here, right, which we don't need to see right now, you would definitely get one of these error messages because his name won't match the Boom Bust tool. So that's what we're here to fix. I need to put in this column what Otto Porter Jr. looks like as far as Fantasy Cruncher is concerned. This is what the Boom Bust tool has, Otto Porter Jr. Now, we could probably guess if there's a problem and the Boom Bust has him as a junior and he's not correct, he's probably just Otto Porter in Fantasy Cruncher. But that's not always the case. I mean, like, Wancho, is a good example. You know, you know, guys have nicknames, stuff like that. So we could start typing our guess here. This is going to save us from scrolling through this list, finding Otto Porter wherever he is, and saying, okay, there's Otto Porter. And, you know, it's like, there he is. Okay. Where I just saw him. All right here. So he is Otto Porter. Now I could copy this and then bring it up here and paste it in. That's a pain in the ass to have to do that every time. What we can do is just start typing what we think it might be. And you see how it auto-populated? That's because I put the name list below here. Anytime you start typing a name that's already in a column somewhere, it will help you auto-populate. So this is a trick to figure out what the right name really is. Now that I see that it's already telling me by the auto-populating that that's how it is, I can hit enter. And now you see 92 came up. What this tells us is that we've now solved the problem. Because if I wrote Otto Porter Senior, see the 92 goes away? Meaning I haven't solved the problem yet. Okay? Otto Porter, boom, I solved the problem. So now what you do is anytime you solve the problem and you get that, you take this, you copy these two, and you put them at the next place in your table, and you paste by value. So that you're not putting formulas in here, okay? Notice the 92 went away, but so did the missing, because now this validation where we checked to see if this name was in this table first, it fired. So now we know that Otto Porter is not a problem anymore. And we can even erase what we did here, because Otto Porter is no longer a problem in our model. In our permanent table here that we're never going to erase, Otto Porter is good to go. We can even write ourselves a note, do not erase if we want to, okay? Just to make sure we know, okay? So now let's try another one. Who else is a problem? KJ Martin. Well, KJ Martin isn't a junior or a senior, but my suspicion is, right, just kind of looking at it, that it's probably that in the Boom Bust tool, he has no periods, but he has a period after his K and J in Fantasy Cruncher. Let's see if we can get that right. Not always is it going to auto-populate, even if you get it down there. It's a, you know, Excel is just a little finicky, but let's try it. Okay, so we do not have it right, okay? That is not what's going on with KJ Martin. So let's try it, KJ Martin Jr. There it is. Now we know we got it right, okay? That's an awesome example because sometimes, like PJ Tucker, I think, will have the period. So Daniel House. Is not a junior, okay? So now we can be taking these, just these two, bringing them up here, paste by value, always by value, okay? You can go through and do your whole list first, and then you can go back and paste them all in, which is probably how I would do it. Troy Brown. So here's Wancho, okay? This is an example here where if we don't, I'm going to show you another way to do this, okay? So another way to do this is to, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. I'm going to show you another thing. If you Control Shift L, oh yeah, why is this doing this? I don't want to do it like that. I don't want to do it there. I want to do it down here. Won't let me do it down there. Oh, well, all right, it has to go in the top, fine. You can search in here and see that it's Juan. That's another way to look for the misnames, because the problem with Wancho here is that if you, I mean, it's not going to populate yet. You kind of have to add a bunch of characters. And if I start typing Wancho to see if he's a junior, it's not going to work. I would have to kind of know that it's Juan. But so two different ways to do it. Nonetheless, there's not going to be a ton of these names that you have to deal with. And again, once you do this once, it's over. So you don't have to worry about it ever again. So Kevin Knox, not happening. Is it just Kevin Knox? It is. Boom. So now we can just, like I said, you go through here. You don't have to do it in any kind of order. Just add them by value. Okay. Now, you know what? I am going to add them all. And actually, what you can do is, I wonder if you can, shit, my bad. If you hold control, I think you can just go through them all and then copy. I think it's not going to give me a mismatch error here in terms of the size. No, there we go. So now we should be good. We don't need any more of the names in here, and there should be no more names left. So now my table for today is complete. These names stay here. Next week, next slate, you'll change your player list in Boom Bust. If there's more names, like say somebody's not on this slate today, then you'll just keep adding them. And if you need to grow this, grow it. 50, whatever, just keep copying it down. Okay? But now that we've got a table here, we're going to come back to this, which is, these are the problems we're trying to solve here, right? So what we're going to do here is we're going to change one of the formulas in here, okay? I'm going to show you two different ways to do this, because the formula that I'm going to add into here is a little bit ugly because it's kind of nested and it's not for everyone. I know a lot of people struggle when they have to start nesting things in Excel. Let's get into it. So I'm just gonna copy this to have it on my clipboard, and I'm gonna erase this. Actually, I'm not gonna erase that. This is how it starts. All right. What this is saying is, take the index of the boom bust column J, which is the boom percentage on this tab, and match this player A2 to the A column on this tool, and give me that boom percentage. And it's working for all the guys who match. We're going to say, instead of A2, which is this name, we're going to say match if error, okay? And then nest an index in here. And now we're going to nest the index of name table. You know what? Instead of me typing this, I'm going to show you so you know where we're going with it. We're going to go here. See how I clicked on this B up here and it populated AB because I merged these two. You're going to want to manually fix this to BB because you only want to look in column B. So now what this is saying is, instead of using A2 as the name to look, we want to try to match in this column, in B to B, we're going to try to match A2 here, and we're going to match it into column A to A. In other words, if Otto Porter is on that main sheet, instead of trying to match Otto Porter to the boom bust, we're going to come in here, see if Otto Porter is in here. If we see Otto Porter, we're going to take Otto Porter Jr. as our match value and look at the boom bust tool that way. And so right now, that's what we're in the middle of doing. Always match by exact. And then here, we're going to have the value if error. If error, in other words, if Otto Porter is not in this list, if it's Jokic, not in this list, then just use the original A2 value, Jokic, and match that to the boom bust tool. Okay? I did not mean to hit that button. All right. Scared me. Did not want to have to go through all this again. So now A2. Now we need to close parenthesis here so that we get back to our lookup array. This lookup array goes all the way back to this match, which is the boom bust A to A. In other words, it's saying, you know what? I'm going to walk you through this after I do this. Okay. This is saying, take this value. First, look for it here. If it's not here, then take this value and then look for it in here. And when you match it, find the boom percentage that corresponds and put it here. If you take this value, like say it's Otto Porter, and you try to match it here first and you find it, then use this value to look in here instead, because it's going to look like that Otto Porter Jr. That's simple. Okay, now we're going to send this down. What you're going to notice is that there's still a bunch of errors. Okay, these errors, these are the errors like where Steph Curry is not on the boom bust tool. It's not a name match. This is just that Steph Curry is not on the boom bust. But if we scroll through here, we should find some errors that exist in this column, but not in this column. Let's see if we did it right. Like right here, our friend Otto Porter. In this way that we did it, when we just tried to match this to the boom bust tool, we got nada. But using the name table, we got a value. So basically what you're going to do is, from now on, anytime in your model that you're trying to reference a player and you're trying to pull something from a source that you know has names that don't match necessarily, you're going to first query your table and pull the match. Now, we could add a column here and have this be DK salary file, because notoriously the DK salary file does not match the FC stuff either. In fact, the DK salary file has some names that don't match either one of these. Okay. A good example might be KJ Martin. KJ Martin might be KJ Martin Jr. period in FC. KJ Martin, no Jr. in the boom bust, and it might be KJ Jr. in the DK salary file with the periods, K period, J period, Martin Jr., and it won't match any of them. So you could have another column here, and you would have to do another table for this, obviously. And you could paste that value in. Okay, it looks like this over here. And then if you knew you were querying the DK salary file, you would just use that side of the table. So instead of pulling from here, you would pull from this column. All right, so that's it here. So we would not use this. This I just did to show you that there are errors. We would not use this column at all. This is the formula that we would use. We would use this formula when we were pulling from a source. Now, understand one simple thing. If you knew that you were pulling from a source where these names match, like if you were pulling, like these names were derived from the player list, if you were going to pull like the opponent or the standard deviation from this player list, you don't need the table because you know the name is the same. It's literally the place where you got it from. It's just when you think there's a mismatch. The last thing I'll do before I let you go here is I'm just going to show you the easier non-nested way to do this in case it screws people up to do that complicated formula. You can always use a helper column in Excel. And so what you could do here is you could say boom player, okay? And basically this will say, this is the player's name. This is what the player's name looks like on the boom bust tool, okay? And so you could say, we could do equals index, come into the name table. So we can try to pull from B to B, match A2 back here, that A2, match it from A to son of a beach. A2, match it exact, right? So now it's going to give you an error if it doesn't match, but it should give you the name if it does. And then to clean up all these NAs, these errors, you would wrap around this an if error. There's an R there. Yeah. If error, it's blank. In other words, if there's nothing to worry about here, it's blank. So now this column will populate only the players' names that were on your table. And then why that makes it easier is if you were pulling just boom percentage, right? Now the new formula here could be equals if B2 equals blank, then A2, otherwise B2, right? So that's how this would be. And so you would just do index. Sorry if I screwed you up a little bit here. I could, actually, you want to know an even easier way would be if error. Yeah, this is a much easier way. If error, instead of making this blank, just make it A2. In other words, it's going to put the name here. If it's not on your list, it's going to put this name. And if it is, it's going to put the boom bust name from the table. And now all you really have to do is just instead of this whole long nesting match, you would just go index boom bust J to J, which is where the boom percentage is, match just B2. Because we know that name is always right for the boom bust tool. Match it here by 0, and now we're good. There you go. So basically, we're just matching B2 no matter what, because we've already taken this extra step with this helper column of ensuring that this column is going to be right for the boom bust tool no matter what. Now, if we were going to pull, just to be clear, if you wanted to pull the projection W from the player list, you would then reference this column, because we know that the names are not like that in the boom bust column player list. You would want to use these, okay? But now you have your options, and you could do another one here for DK salary file. So however you want to do it, but there you go. There's your name table. Enjoy. Just remember too, it's a decent amount of work to get it set it up once, but after that, the maintenance of it is a piece of cake. You literally just, every time you load in your player list and stuff, just come in your name table, just take a quick scroll and say, oh, everybody's good to go. We're fine. You know what? Actually, before I go, I'll show you one more kind of fancy thing. Okay. If you really want to make this easy, quick, visual, leave this guy right here. Let's take away the auto quarter fix so that there is a problem. Okay. And right here, you could just say, what do we do? Equals, say equals if count if F3 to F500 is greater than 0, greater than and 0, then if that's true, you could write missing. Oh, actually, you want to get really fancy, then we could say if the count is 0, yeah, I actually kind of like this way. If it's more than 0, then make this value in this cell up here the count. Make it however many it is. Did that work? It's greater than and 0. I should also add what to do if it's not. If it's not, just make it, or we could do all clear. Yeah. So, all right, now we'll center this. It thinks it's all clear. That means I screwed this up somehow. I think I might need to put that there. No, what the hell? Oh, you know why? Because is count if, I think. Oh. Dun, dun, dun. I don't want to do is greater than 0. I just want to do it's not blank. Right? Did I do that right? Nope, that ain't working either. Well, this is a good lesson. Anytime you're struggling to get a formula to work, always separate part of it out. So let's do equals count if F3 to F500. Count if F3 to F500. Can I do it like this? I think you can't, right? Yeah, you can. I knew it. You need to put these in this. So 400. That works. So, oh, you know why? I think that the not blank thing, if there's a formula in there, it won't work maybe. Is that true? Yeah, see, 0 of them are not blank. God damn it. So if that's the case, right, then you could just I think you can can we do count A? Can we just say if count A can we say equals count A? Can we say if count A is greater than 0, then count A. And if it's not, then all clear. Can we do that? No, because it's going to say that they're empty. I mean, they're not empty because there's a formula there, right? Just check F3 to F50. So it's saying that 48 of them. Wait, 48 of them are empty. Oh, there's only 48 there. Yeah, that's saying all of them. God. All right. Let's see. So in this case, there might be a better way to do this, but I can't think of it right now. So I am just going to add a helper column. And it's going to say equals if F3 equals blank, then blank. Otherwise, just do 1. And then here you can just do sum of H3 to H500. That should be 1, right? So this is what you would do. You would just, if the sum of H3 to H500 is greater than 0, then I wonder if we could just count H3 to H500. That would be cool if we could do that. Otherwise, all clear. And I know there's a mistake here that I have to fix. So equals if 0, if it's true, then, and if it's false, all clear. So that works actually, right? Yep. So now there's 1, and then if I fix it, hopefully that goes to 0. Or all clear, it should say. Oh. So the only other thing we need to do to fix that is we need to say if and, right? If and G, well, I want to do this up here because I want to do it for all of them. So instead, this should be if and G3 equals blank and F3 equals blank. In that case, did that fix it? So if and G6 is blank. Oh. Yeah, we just needed to say not blank, right? Oh. The hell am I doing wrong? I'm a mess. I'm a mess. So instead of that, yeah, instead of that, let's just do this. Let's just say if G3 equals blank, then this is blank. Then if F3, what did I do? That might work. Nope. So little bit at a time. Long morning. All clear. So what we're going to do is if G3 is not blank, in other words, if we found the problem, right? If G3 is not blank, then make this blank. Otherwise, if F3 is blank, then make it blank. Otherwise, make it 1, which means that if there are unresolved problems, it should tell you the number up there of the problems. And if they're all fixed, actually, you know, let's do this. Yeah. So this should fix it. Let's add these to here, back. I told you to do this by value, and then I didn't. There we go. Do it by value always. And now it's still all clear, right? Because there's no problem here. I screwed that up by putting the blue in. That's funny. Now, what happens if we erase all of this hard work we did? Oh, now we have 6 problems. So yeah, this is a cool way of doing it, you know, because now, like when you first come in here, you'll be able to say, hey, this is 6. I have 6 problems in here, and you'll know. And, or if you quickly do it and your table is so robust that you have no problems, it might say all clear, and then you're good to go. So, you know, and then obviously just like all clear, make this look nice. Okay. Don't be a slob. Make this look decent. Extend your stuff here. Okay. Extend your grid over. Don't be a slob. Maybe make it centered. Okay. So you can do all that. And then lastly, you could even add a little conditional formatting and say, highlight cells that are greater than. And if it's greater than 0, maybe we custom format and we give it the old, it's red. Boom. So we do that, right? So that now we can come here and see, oh, it's red. We have problems. We have 6. And then if we were to fix all this, like if we brought our name table back, it would be good to go. It would just go back to all clear. All right, cool. That's it. Went on a little longer than I meant to. Peace out.